Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers before our class. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhavaswaha, Tatsavitra Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. अस्तो मा सद्गम्य तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गम्य मृत्युर्मा अमृतं गम्य ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति 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 ओम. Please open your books towards the end of this great scripture, even though it's such a small scripture, but we all know that what kind of a wealth of knowledge is contained in it. Fourth chapter, Kaivalya Pad, verse number 29. Prasankhyane api akusudasya sarvatha vivek khyate dharma megha samadhi. So, prasankhyane means in the highest meditation. Api means even. Akusidasya, one who has no interest left. Sarvatha, in every way. Vivek khyate, by discrimination. Dharma megha, by showering of dharma. Samadhi, when there's no interest even in the highest meditation. Dharma meg samadhi develops on account of complete discrimination. Vivek khyati. So when the state of vivek khyati is completely established and the impressions causing interruptions are also subdued, this meditation culminates in the final or the finest type of samadhi. In the first chapter in the Samadhi Path, we learned several kinds of samadhis. But Rishi Patanjali did not mention this Dharma Meg Samadhi. But now he is talking about Dharma Meg Samadhi, the finest type of samadhi called Dharma Meg Samadhi. This is interesting because here the yogi develops an aversion even for enlightenment. There is a complete vairagya even regarding vivek khyati. And the yogi becomes free of the desires to attain kaivalya. Because we know that so far, this sadhak gained all that energy. And he was guided by the ambition for kaivalya. That goal is kaivalya, moksha. Now even that is left behind. So in other words, once he is near the culminating point, the thirst for reaching that point is completely lost. Akusid, that means not expecting anything. Akusid. This is a state in which the yogi gives up the idea of gaining anything or reaching anywhere through the meditation he is doing. All the ambitions, all the interests, they are left behind. Sadhana is practiced, It's not that the yogi is not doing the sadhana. Sadhana is being practiced, but there's no idea of achieving anything. Because normally we do something to gain something, but now there's nothing to be gained. So in that state, there's no attachment even to the state of Kaivalya. It's very interesting to note that the urge for Kaivalya, which guides the seeker from the lowest point of consciousness to the development of supreme consciousness, is automatically given up. Just at the time of attaining Kaivalya. So this gives rise to Dharma Megh Samadhi. In that state, all the seeds of past impressions are completely burnt. Every karma is finished. And the gates of reality are opened up. The mysteries and the curiosities remain no more. Remember, this word dharma, which we often talk about, does not mean over here religion. Because we often use this word dharma for religion. It doesn't even mean as a duty. Now it means the inherent property or characteristic function. The dharma here involved is Sat, Chit, Anand, which is a universal characteristic or function of the higher consciousness. Megh. Megh is a technical term meaning a mystical condition, which may be described as a very superior state of drowsiness, through which we have the experience of Sat, Chit, Anand. We all know that in Sanskrit, Megh means cloud. It is a cloud which showers on the yogi a homogeneous experience of Satchit Ananda. This yogi sees God, nothing but God everywhere. And this Megh cannot be described through language, through words actually. But we can say that it's a very high state of homogeneous experience of Sat Chit Ananda. That is a Dharma Megh Samadhi. This becomes possible when the last stage of Nirbij Samadhi is reached. Because you remember in the first chapter, we learned about the Sabij Samadhis, the Nirbij Samadhi. So the last stage of Nirbij Samadhi, when you reach there, only then it's possible this Dharma Megh Samadhi. For example, our scriptures say that when a person dies, the last moment of his life is the moment when he sees his whole life passing in front of him. In a mystic way, he doesn't see everything clearly, but he has a kind of a mystic awareness of all that what has happened in his life. Looks at it as if he is looking at a landscape. Similarly, this great experience in Dharma Megh Samadhi is the last moment before liberation. This brings about an end of all efforts, all sadhana, meditation, or samadhi. We all know that liberation means breaking off. And Dharam Samadhi is the ultimate point of the aim of Yoga Abhyas. After it is reached, the yogi enters into a new field of existence and activities. Tatah kleshakarmanivrittih. This is verse number 30. Tata means thereafter. Kalesh means afflictions. Karam is the actions. Nivritti, cessation. Thereafter arises freedom from kleshas or karmas. So it's a complete freedom from them. When the yogi attains the state of Sat Chit Anand through Dharam Samadhi, he is no longer affected by kleshas and karmas. These two instruments of bondage, we are all familiar with. Afflictions and actions. They keep us tied down to the world of experience. But influence of the Dharam Samadhi completely dissolves them. No afflictions and no karam. Once these twin instruments are destroyed, yogic sadhana ends. So the purpose of yogic sadhana is to end these two, afflictions and the karam. It should be understood that the immediate purpose of yoga is to eliminate avidya. You remember the first affliction is avidya, ignorance. Realization of Kaivalya is not the direct effect, but an indirect effect through the removal of the kleshas. And what are the other klesha? See, the root is avidya, then asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. Those are all klesha. We have to learn to discover this state, which is already there actually. We don't have to bring this state inside us. It's already there. We got to learn how to discover it. We got to discover our very nature, which Lord Rishi Patanjali been calling a Purusha. So that's why Jivan Mukti is the ultimate root of yoga. You have the body, you're living over here, but you're free from these kleshas and karmas. It means the state of freedom from the clutches of Prakriti and the three guns, Satvikta, Rajsikta, and Tamsikta. You are free. Because province of Prakriti begins with avidya and ends in Jivan Mukti. It is a state beyond the realm of Prakriti, where the Jivan Mukt experiences eternal bliss. We often wonder, how do we know whether we are progressing or not? In our yogic sadhana, is there more and more bliss or not? The Jivan Mukt can look at Prakriti from outside because he himself is not in its fold. He has a practical understanding of both Prakriti and Mukti at one and the same time. So can see the nature and is free from it. The clutches of the Prakriti does not affect the yogi at this state. It is true that the ultimate state of mukti is already in us because we are the Atma. It must be understood that it is hidden by the layers of avidya and the impressions of the past actions. When these layers are removed through yoga, the state which is already there is discovered. So you don't have to bring anything new. You got to just only remove this dirt. So that's why we should never give up our sadhana. By virtue of elimination of Prakriti and the three gunas, got to keep on doing this sadhana. Continue on the path of yoga until we become a separate center of pure consciousness in the supreme reality and become completely separate from Prakriti. We can see the distinction between the Atma and the Prakriti. After achieving Dharam Meg Samadhi, the kleshas and the karmas no longer bind the yogi. For the yogi, they become non-existent. So you remember the kleshas, the rag and the vesh, doesn't have to run towards something or run away from something. We all know that the process of mukti is twofold. Individual mukti and the cosmic mukti. Cosmic mukti is also called prakriti mukti in the scriptures. So this cosmic mukti is the liberation of Prakriti and Purush as a whole. When an individual becomes free of kleshas and karmas, they still exist somewhere in Prakriti. Although for that person, the Prakriti has ended, but they still exist in a Prakriti somewhere. But when there is the end of a vast cycle, everything merges into Prakriti. That is the Prakriti moksha. You can almost understand this with this analogy that a person who can afford an air conditioner, there's a lot of heat of summer everywhere outside, but that person can sit in his own room or house, which is completely cooled. That is a Jivan Mukta. But the elimination of the heat from every corner when the weather changes or whether there is a heavy rain, that can be compared to Prakriti Mukti or Prakriti Moksha. So these are the two aspects of Mukti, individual and universal. There are two approaches to liberation. One is the escapist approach, and the other is the practical approach. So the approach of a yogi should be practical. So practically liberated Jivan Mukta works for the good of humanity. Does not escape into the realm beyond Prakriti even when he is liberated. So that's why these gurus or the avatars, the saintly people, they are Jivan Mukta, but they are here for rest of us. So Jivan Mukta brings the solace and the peace to the suffering. No personal agenda, no attachment to the actions or to the results. That's a Jivan Mukta. And this yogi remains in the Dharmic Samadhi, does not escape into Kaivalya. Although that is just at hand for him, he can jump off. It's almost like a wall over there. He's sitting on top of the wall, giving his hand to the others to go towards the other side where all the fruit trees are. He can jump off, but he does not. When he feels that he has done his job, he goes beyond into the state of Kaivalya then. So individual liberation is no liberation at all. I mean, academically it's a liberation, but practically it's not the liberated individual to fight. So he goes on spreading the message of good living on earth. Ultimately, when he feels he has shown a way to the millions who are suffering, he transcends the realm of Prakriti and goes beyond. Let's look at verse number 31. Tada sarvavarannamalapetasy jnanasyaanantyajgyeyam alpam. This is verse number 31. This is about infinity of knowledge. Tada means then. Sarv means all. Avaran, covering. Mal, impurity. Petasya, of one from which it is removed. Jnanasya, of knowledge. Anantyat, infinity. Gyeyam, knowable. Alpam, but little. Then by the removal of all veils, all coverings, and impurities, little remains to be known. Because of the infinity of knowledge. So Dharmic Samadhi brings about two things. Firstly, it removes the veil or covering of knowledge, and secondly, it completely removes all impurities. Okay, avaran and mal. And in addition to the above two, vikshep is also removed. So you remember there are three things: mal, vikshep, and avaran. But vikshep has already been eliminated through abhyas. Vikshep is the restlessness of the mind. So only two errors are mentioned in this sutra. Because through abhyas, vikshep was already removed, but now the mal and the avaran also. When we study the Upanishads, we have seen that those rishis say that the darkness and fear do not leave an individual until the light of knowledge rises on the horizon of the superconscious. They call it a Gyan Surya. Over here, it's said that after Dharmic Samadhi, the great event of removal of impurities and the veils of knowledge takes place. And the yogi sees that little remains to be seen or known. That means yogi sees everything. There's nothing left to be known. Everything is crystal clear. In the beginning, we know that the aspirant constantly feels that he has known very little. That's like a jigyasu's mind. I want to know more. Because jigyasu thinks that there's yet to be something else I need to learn. But when the veil of knowledge is removed, there remains little to be known or acquired. It's like everything is crystal clear. Yogi becomes aptakam, aptagyan, and antahasankalap. Nothing remains to be known or fulfilled, won or desired. This becomes his personal nature. But until this enlightenment, he has to make steady progress, though. We cannot just fool ourselves that we are there. How do we do this progress? Through rigorous discipline and constant sadhana. This is what Rishi Patanjali told us in the sadhana pad. Because at this point in the beginning, he is a seeker. But when he becomes established in sadhana, he is called a sadhak. But when he attains dharma samadhi, he becomes a siddh. His thirst for knowledge, steadiness, and peace is quenched by the showers of the cloud of dharma. For him, everything and everything, he becomes known. Whenever he desires it, because there is no veil or covering for his knowledge, he knows it. He comes to experience the Mahavakyas, the great sayings, which we learn from the Upanishads, which were uttered by those rishis during Samadhi. He feels those. That becomes his reality. What are these Mahavakya? Pragyanam Brahma. The ultimate truth, the cosmic reality is consciousness. Pragyanam Brahma. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahma. These are not just the words for him anymore. Tatutvam asi. Thou art that. I am Atma Brahm. This individual soul is Brahma. We all know that these are the four immortal utterances which sum up the whole philosophy of the Upanishads. They are to be understood not only intellectually, but in actual experience and realization. And that is possible only in Dharma Samadhi. So that means our sadhana got to become intense and more intense. After attaining Dharma Samadhi, the Purush remains in its own form and nature. So freed from the superimposition of the vrittis of the mind. Verse number 32. Tatah kritarthanan parinamakramapari Tatah means thereafter. Kritarthanam, having fulfilled their purpose. Parinam, of the changes. Kram means process. Samapati, end. Gunanam, of the gunas. So that means the gunas retire. Thereafter, having fulfilled their purpose and after the end of the process of change, the gunas retire. Gunas belong to the Prakriti. Prakriti retires. The yogi becomes kritartha by attaining dharma megh samadhi. Because for him, nothing remains to be achieved. The process of change in the mind and the gunas also comes to an end. The law of cause and effect comes to an end with the law of change. As far as this yogi is concerned, the entire process of the gunas has one object. What is that? To create an experience. To bring out the liberation ultimately. So both these purposes being fulfilled, the gunas retire. So they say, we are done. We are done with this particular person. Verse number 33. Kshannapratiyogi parinamaparantanigrarhyah kramah. Kshan is the moment. Pratiyogi, corresponding. Parinam, change. Aparantah, in the end. Nirgrahya, entirely apprehensible. Kramah, process. So kram is the process corresponding to moments. Apprehensible in the end. We all know the process is a series of occurrences. It can be known only when it is complete. For example, the end of this body becomes apprehensible only at the end of the process, that is death. So the process of death is taking place constantly, actually. But it does not stop there because the moments of transformation are immediately succeeded by another form of existence. Things go on becoming old every moment, but we call them old only after the end of the process. That particular process in relation to time and in relation to event is called kramah. It is true of everything that is a product of the three gunas because the gunas go on changing every moment. Only the soul is beyond the scope of these transformations. There's no change in the soul. There are 5 states of parinama. The unmanifest to manifest, from a mineral to vegetable, from vegetable to animal, from animal to human, from human to superhuman. In these different classes, there are also various stages of evolution. But usually we do not notice the individual changes from stage to stage. Why? Because they are not very pronounced. But we all know that when we meet a person after 10 years or 20 years, we can see a change. That change was actually going on every moment, but we cannot know it separately every moment. This process of change comes to an end in dharma megh samadhi. Because this is the final point of transformation of the three gunas. Beyond that, there is no transformation. There comes the end of transformation in the all realms of existence. So there's no rebirth after moksha. Just as we do not know when a child becomes a young man or when a young man becomes an old man, similarly, the transformations of the jiva from one kingdom to another. I'm talking about the mineral kingdom, animal kingdom, human kingdom, from vegetable to animal, from animal to human, from one incarnation to another, from one birth to another birth. They are not apprehensible. Therefore, there are people in the world who do not believe in rebirth or reincarnation. Why? Because they know they cannot see it. They say, we cannot see it, we don't believe it. But it may be said that it's not possible to see it. It is apprehensible only at the end of the process and not in between. So this sutra gives a very scientific and logical reasoning for the theory of rebirth. Let's look at the last verse of this great scripture, verse number 34. Purusharth shunya nam guna nam pratiprasvaha kaivalyam savrup pratishtha vachit shakte iti. We are familiar with this iti. Whenever the iti word comes, that means that's all. That denotes the end of the book. So Purusharth, purpose of the Purush. Shunya nam, devoid of. Guna nam, of the gunas. Pratiprasvaha, involution. Kaivalyam, liberation. Savrup, one's own nature. Pratishtha, establishment. Va means or. Chit shakte, that is Purush. Iti means that's all. So this is Kaivalya. Kaivalya is the involution of the gunas. Because of the fulfillment of their purpose. That means job done. Or it is the restoration of the Purush to its natural form, which is pure consciousness. So in this verse, Rishi Patanjali has defined Kaivalya in two ways. Because the title of this chapter or this path is Kaivalya Path. So he says, involution of the gunas, that is one way. And the other in terms of the Purush, he says that is Kaivalya. In nature, twofold process can take place. One is evolution, the other is involution. Pravritti and nivritti. In the process of evolution, the objects of experience manifest through various stages, such as asmita, tanmatra, bhoot, etc. Bhoot means the bhoot padarth, the elements. So that is evolution. And that is for the enjoyment of the Purush. But on the other hand, the process of involution is the opposite. Nivritti, where objects merge into their cause progressively. So ultimately, the gunas remain in an undisturbed condition. This happens when the purpose of the gunas, namely bhog and kaivalya of Purush, is achieved. So Kaivalya can be defined as involution of the gunas by fulfillment of their purpose. Purushartha. The process of pratiprasava or involution of the gunas ends in Kaivalya of the Purush. According to the other definition, Kaivalya is the state of Purush in its own pure nature of pure consciousness. The individual tries to purify consciousness through various sadhanas. And those sadhanas are what? We learned. Dharana, dhyan, samadhi, sanyam, etc. So due to this, the veils covering the real nature of the Purusha are removed until at last, through dharam samadhi, the consciousness becomes extremely pure, attains its real nature. Savarupa pratishtha. This is Rishi Patanjali mentioned in the very third verse, when he says that in the second verse, what does he say? Yogashit vritti nirodha. So if we can do that, then he says the yogi is established in his own nature. Savarupa pratishtha. So Kaivalya is the highest point of the combination of all sadhanas. This is the belief of yoga as well as Upanishads. And this needs to be practiced. This is not just given to certain people. The people have practiced either in this lifetime or the previous lifetimes. It seems for the time being that Kaivalya is the highest stage. So far, we are concerned. So what do we need to do? Abhyas. Be disciplined. Have faith in it. Do the yoga sadhana. Because this is the goal. So that's why the word yoga means the sadhana. It is the process also, but at the end, it is the goal also, the yoga. We realize that who we are, and we see the oneness with everybody and everything also. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.